Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today on building digital resilience through ePortfolios, lessons for the future. My name is Christina Hörpner, and I'm a member of the Executive Committee of FLANZ, the Flexible Learning Association of New Zealand, and I'm also a member of the ABLE Digital Ethics Task Force, and ABLE is the Association for Authentic, Experiential, and Evidence-Based Learning. FLANZ and ABLE partnered to bring this webinar to you because it does bridge the areas of portfolios and also flexible online, distance, and open learning. And so we wanted to make sure that we bring our two communities together to hear what Associate Professor Dr. Mpoente Modise from the University of South Africa and Professor Dr. Norm Vaughan from Mount Royal University have to say. Since this is a webinar that is organized or co-organized by FLANZ, we always start our sessions with a karakia here in Aotearoa, which allows us to center us into the session so that we let everything else go and really take time to work in the space right now. And then at the end, there will also be a karakia, which then releases us back into the rest of our day. So, whaia te maturanga kia marama. Kia whai takina mahi katoa, tō maia, tō kaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tato ia tato katoa. And so now it is my absolute pleasure to hand over to Mpoente and Norm because they have brought together a lot of people from around the world for their book, which is on the digital resilience for around ePortfolios. And so digital resilience of ePortfolios during and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, lessons for the future. And because a 730-page book is quite a bit to read, we wanted to make sure that you are also having the chance to actually meet the editors and also meet some of the authors. So over to you, Mpoente and Norm.
Right.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you so much. Norm, you want to say hello?
Yes, I thought I'd say hello quickly and then I'll start the slides for you. Hello, and what a privilege to be here. We're so excited to share this with you and to learn from you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes, thank you so much,
go.
Christina. While Prof. Norm is sharing our slides, yes, for that warm welcome. I was hoping you'll read the karakia in that language, and it sounded so lovely. It sounded like Zulu, though. You know, we've got the Zulu in South Africa. We've got about 11 official languages in South Africa. So thank you for that beautiful introduction. And you know really just how to make a person really feel important. And we experienced that during our podcast with you in March and throughout the way you have really been promoting our book and really being so kind to us. I also want to thank the Association for Authentic, Experiential, and Evidence-Based Learning, that's AAEEBL, and Flexible Learning Association of New Zealand, that FLANZ, for this webinar. We appreciate your support. And also thank you so much for our guest today, or our audience rather, without whom this webinar could happen. And we are delighted to speak about this book. It's a big book, Christina, and what you have pushed us to do is also even bigger, going through 43 chapters in just over an hour, given that we took more about 9 months or so to put it together, and you want us to talk about it in 1 hour. So I believe you trust us too much, Christina, but we will do our best. I also want to thank just quickly our contributors. As you would know, this book, as you've seen also on the slides there, it was published in 2025. It brings together 43 chapters, 85 authors, and 7 interconnected themes. and it's also freely available as an OER under the Creative Commons license. So today we just want to take you through the journey of the book's key ideas and what they mean for the future for e-portfolios in education. I'm starting, as you are already aware, and Prof. Nom will come and do the hard job. I'm doing the easy one. Prof. Nom, if you'll go to the next slide. And again, yes, my name is Mpho Entle Modise. Mpho Entle is a Setswana name from South Africa. It means beautiful gift. So, yes. So this book, we believe is one of the most comprehensive collections of on e-portfolios. I'm not sure, Kristen, if it's okay for me to switch off my camera, or am I okay? Is it okay?
You're perfectly fine.
Okay, wonderful. So this book is one of the most, we believe is one of the most comprehensive collection on e-portfolios to emerge in the field of research and in the field of e-portfolios, of course. And we hope that it will become a reference point for future research, practice, and policy in the e-portfolio space. So I would really encourage you, if you have not looked at it, and if you are a contributor to the book, to also look at other chapters and see how it addresses whatever ideas, thoughts that you may have. The numbers speaks for themselves. You see on the screen 43 chapters, 12 countries that people contributed. The scale and diversity of this book reflect the growing global significance of e-portfolios, not just as a pedagogical tool, but also as a vehicle for resilience and identity and professional development. So you'll hear more as we unpack the chapters, something that's really difficult, but we'll do justice. Prof, if you can also go to the next slide. So if you're one of our contributors and you are here today, I saw Wendy, I saw Kate, Christina, you're also one of the contributors. I saw quite a few. Please, when we talk about your chapter, if you're there, please add some notes and in the chat so we can speak, so you can also contribute to more depth of what your chapter is about. So we would like to start with the easy stuff, which is me who's doing it. I'll leave the tough stuff to Prof. Nom. The story behind the book quickly, which is itself a testament for the power of international collaboration. And I'm happy that I get to do this stuff, just about a story, because telling stories is beautiful. So Prof. Nom and I, we were first connected through the Commonwealth of Learning's ODL Practitioner Mentorship Program in 2023. And 2023, we are now in 2026, and we believe really that we have achieved so much in that small period of time. And we have since collaborated on webinars. Prof, if you can go to the next slide, from webinars, conferences, we've attended conferences, and also 2 major publications that we have just seen in the previous slide. We've done conferences together in person. I've always believed that pictures can say 1,000 words, but now with the emergence of AI, you never know what's real and what's not real, but you can be sure these pictures are real. We were first supposed to meet in Costa Rica, but my traveling arrangements were cancelled on the last minute, and our hearts were broken. And so we decided to go to Rwanda. So in the pictures there, you see at the bottom there where we are looking at the, pointing at the wall banner there. It's in Rwanda, Kigali. And that's where we first met in person. But before then, we had lots of meetings online, lots of webinars in South Africa, Nigeria, that we're invited to speak about our collaboration and other works that we've been doing together. Thank you so much, Prof. Nom. And so, as you can see here, a project of this, nature requires tools, which Nom will also perhaps speak to it once in a while. One of the major tools that made it possible was the Pressbooks, where the book is currently hosted. It's online, it's live. And it's just beautiful because you even now we can do some changes there, Christina, online. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's an OER, of course. It's evolving. So here in these pictures, I was getting my crash training on Pressbooks, and if you know Prof. Norm, he was running through the slides with me. Importantly, you must log in, you must do this. So this is part of the journey. This was part of the journey, and I think, if I may say so myself, I'm one of the good students, Prof. Norm. So it didn't took me too much to get the hang of Pressbook, and that's why it's so beautiful, Pressbook, and it's easy to use for everybody. I know that they are running webinars once in a while. Be on the lookout and see how you can participate and also, contribute a book there or publish a book there. So yes, next slide, Prof. So one of the memorable and honestly quite demanding parts of this was, as I said, was that that crashing training on Pressbooks. But then the big day came for us. That was in October 2025 when we had the soft launch. I was not in Alberta, but Prof was there. As you can see in the pictures, we had this beautiful four-wall screens. Guys, it was just so beautiful. I remember they had this big screen where they had just me alone on the big screen. I was flattered to see myself on the screen there. It was held during the International Open Education Week, which was very key moment for us for this, because this is also an OER. So we launched this during that week in Alberta. And Prof, the next slide quickly. I want to run quickly through these pictures
Yeah.
so that you can give us the real stuff on the menu. Yes. And so if the Alberta Open Week, International Open Education Resource Week was the big day, now this was the big day. Prof, by the way, who's the lady with you? She's one of the
That's Kate. That's
contributors.
Kate.
That's
That's
Kate.
Kate.
Yes.
Yes. But
Kate,
who's in the middle? Isn't your boss the one in the middle?
that's yes, that's
I won't
Prof.
say anything. I
Markwe.
won't say. Yeah. Yeah.
That's Prof. Markwe. She's my dean, and yeah, she was chairing the session, the official launch in Wellington. Christina, I think at the same time you couldn't attend because you were in another session, but apparently you were going on and recruiting people and telling people to come to this webinar. I mean the launch, so which was really beautiful. This for me was the big day. Prof, I think I'm going to the last slide for me now,
Yeah.
and then it will be you. So one of the
Okay.
beautiful things that we said, that I must say we have really enjoyed so much publicity, and thanks to Christina. In March we had the podcast with Christina, and she's a well-known advocate for ePortfolios. Guys, if you don't know Christina, please go on LinkedIn, look for Christina Hupner. I hope I pronounced your surname properly, and check a wall. It's all about portfolio work. It's all about reflecting, learning, and sharing. And that's exactly what she did with our with this resource. And so it was a wonderful conversation that we have. And Prof. Norma and I were just going on and responding to the question that she was giving us. Lest did we know she would make these beautiful small tokens for us that she was publishing online. But what the journey is about, as Prof. Norm has said, it's about taking ownership and pride in your portfolio. And I'll say right now to our contributors in here that take pride and ownership of your contribution to this book. This is an international resource that cut across 12 countries, 5 continents, and it's just beautiful. Prof, let me stop here and let you continue with the big stuff. Thank you.
And Puente, I feel terrible because it really is about stories. And, again, offline, I could go on and on about the stories about M. Puente. But as she mentioned, the exciting thing for me was that this really was an international collaboration. And I've learned so much from so many different countries and different people. But we, again, you'll see in a minute, we had a lot of authors from South Africa. And, there's the African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. And that really what this is about. Again, not just the authors, but M. Puente quickly showed the slide. A real mentor to me has been Eric Christensen. Again, Pressbook is what my institution uses. There's other open publishing tools maybe at your institutions, but I think it's really important that we share our work and that everybody has access to it. Again, I wish I looked younger, but I've been around for a long time, and it's sort of frustrating. Some previous books I've done, I'm a little egotistical. I think they're great books, but they're not accessible to people because they're either out of print or they're quite expensive. So what I'd like to do now, and as we mentioned, we have a number of authors here, and you'll see your chapter come up in a minute. But again, one of the selfish things about doing this with M. Puente is we got to read all 43 chapters, and it was really exciting, the journey for both of us as we went through this. And not only did the themes evolve, but for us to see how they were all connected. So I'm going to try and do this really quickly because some of you know me and I really love to talk, and especially when I don't have people in front of me, I don't have a filter. So I'm watching the clock really closely. So here we go. 7 really is a magic number, isn't it? In a lot of cultures and in a lot of philosophies. So here we go. Our 7 interconnected themes. So the first thing, and again, it makes sense. It really was the focus of the book about resilience. But what was exciting for both of us, and again, authors, if your chapter's in here, please do it. It was more than just the technology. It was the resilience of us as humans, our relationship with our natural environment. But it was really exciting for me personally, and I know M. Puente as well. It just wasn't the tools. It was the way that we were trying to empower and support people. And just a little plug, Christina. Christina Abel has a really amazing conference coming up in June, and she just let the cat out of the bag. Is that one of the keynote speakers is going to be a student who does workshops for faculty? Because I think it's so important, the faculty voice, but I'll be honest, the student voice, but our voice as well. Just the growth and the development that happened for me through this book, but a portfolio that I've had, I started in paper form, it's gone through. So again, just the first theme makes sense. It was related to the title of the book, but the resilience. And again, they say if we forget the past, we're doomed for the future. How important it is, 2020, 2021, it seems like a distance past, but it was only 5 or 6 years ago. How important it is, especially those lessons. If we work together, we can solve great problems. Okay, enough pontificating. On to the next theme. So the next theme are 2 together is what I was excited is again, we weren't sugarcoating this. There were real challenges that we encountered during the COVID area, specifically around the use of portfolios, and that we still encounter. So again, the best way to problem solve is first identify what the problem is and what are some various ways. So again, it's not one size alls, the way that we can address it. So again, chapter 7 to 9, just kudos to those 3 offers, just talking about it. And again, unfortunately, that level of learner anxiety, I don't think it's changed. And I'm going to be really careful what I say, but working with my students, I think with everything, the chaos that's happening in this world, it's heightened as well. So the more we can connect people together, and I think portfolios are so powerful to do that. The other thing that came out, and again, this was part of COVID, but it's something I know that we have people that have way more experience than I do with portfolios, but this really is rethinking assessment. And I think this is so important. I'm getting ahead of myself, but with AI, who did this, did what, the authentic voice. I don't think there's anything more authentic than a portfolio. Again, you can get Gemini, different things to Gemini, get images or whatever, but it's pretty easy to detect an authentic voice in a portfolio. And again, it just gets away with that level of get rid of the level of anxiety, and that testing happens at a specific time in a specific way. Again, different people, those different strengths, the way of thinking, empowering. It's just, I know for all of you, it's just a gift for me. I fortunate we have a whole program portfolio. So every course I teach, I have access to their portfolios. And from second to fourth year to see the growth, but just, it's something as a faculty member, I actually look forward to the assessment process because I learned so much. So again, theme three, just looking at the way that, we've been doing this for a while, but I think it was accelerated during the COVID era, and hopefully it will continue with this AI era that we're in now. Chapter four, design for impact. And this is something, it was there because I think it's intuitive in all the chapters. But again, a lot of us, myself, I'll speak for myself, have an instructional design background. It really is designing for meaning, designing for empowerment. And it was these every chapter is great. Just have to be so careful. There's no favorites. They're all wonderful. But this is sort of one that a theme that we didn't initially do, that sort of bubbled up as we came through. And these five in particular, I think if you're really interested in portfolio design, I would go for chapter 16 to 20. Zoom in on those. Again, they're all great, but if you're looking for resources, because again, obviously this is all scholarly work, but this book has really become a powerful resource for my own teaching practice. So that's theme four. Keep it going. This one I think is wonderful because we all know the saying, empowered teachers, empowered educators equal empowered students. Our students pick up when they feel our passion, when they see us as real humans. And, a quote that I always try and get my faculty, I'm still involved in professional and faculty development a little bit. The best way to learn about portfolios is to have your own. And so exciting for me still to work with these faculty. But Christina, I'm definitely going to start bringing students with me as well, because I think it's important that they hear more and more from the students. But this is exciting just to see how portfolios are being used in different ways, in terms of being used for graduate supervision, specific, starting to get into subject areas like mathematics. I thought that was cool. Obviously, in terms of profession, a lot of us, I heard Christina mention Indiana University. I think it's the Bloomington one rather than Indiana, but the home of George Koo, high impact practices, things like, oh, that's my chapter. Okay, sorry. Things like that. Okay, on we go. Chapter six, and this for me, I'm involved primarily in teacher education. And, this is the mindset that we're really trying to enculturate. We're trying to transform the students, their identity, moving from students to teacher candidates to teacher educators, and realizing that this is a lifelong process. I'm so those things, but the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And for you as an educator, you've always got to keep an open mind. You are always going to learn something from students. And again, I love to be in elementary classrooms. Kindergarten's my favorite classroom. As they say, everything you needed to know in life, or at least the framework, all happened. But these are wonderful. A lot of these, I knew, but they took it to a different level, or they looked at it a different way. So I'll be honest, all these chapters really fed my soul for why I'm so passionate about doing e-portfolios and trying to pass on that passion and love for learning to the students. Not for last but not least, looking at the future, it's interesting. I have to be careful because I am getting on. We talk about technology, and I think techne, the root is from a Greek word meaning about the extension of humans. And, the tools, we go back to humans learning how to harness fire. It can do things. It can either warm your house down or it can burn it down. And it seems like that's always the tension we have with these new applications. AI, I can see it being so powerful. Just it's exciting for me when I get an opportunity to visit Africa. I think 80% of sub-Saharan Africa has cell coverage, you can use a cell phone. Where I live in Alberta. It's the richest province in Canada, oil rich. I know it's dirty oil, but we only have 20% coverage. Only 20% of our province do we have coverage. So we have areas where a lot of our learners, especially First Nations, Indigenous learners in the northern part of Alberta, are really out of the loop because they don't have access to something we all do. Again, Elon Musk, who did his university training at the same university I did, Queen's, has tried to do Starlink, but Starlink only goes so far north. Once you go north of 60 degrees north, you lose the connectivity. Geoinformation technologies, the use of doctorals. So again, I'm hoping some of the authors are putting in comments in, but it was exciting. And again, I'm going to go to the next slide because the real heavy lifting was done by M. Puente, because what she tried to do is look at the 43 chapters and look at cross-cutting themes. So M. Puente, da, 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 over to you. Next slide.
Yes, thank you so much, Prof. 730 pages, Christina. What you asked us to do is almost impossible. But we want to try and do justice. And as you have seen, we were intentional in putting the names of the authors on the screen so that they can see their contribution there. So thank you again, Prof. Norm, for that remarkable and always a joyful way of presenting our work. And in this case, our contributors' work, because indeed it is 43, 85. It's a collective work of 45 authors coming together. So stepping back from the individual chapters, we want to highlight the 6 cross-cutting threads that runs through all 43 chapters. And just to highlight them quickly for us, first, equity. So equity and access, the infrastructural and digital literacy gaps that are facing or learners face, particularly in the sub-Saharan Africa. These are not just background noise. They are actually central concerns that every implementation strategy must address. And I think I saw in the chat that Kate said something about it, that we need to be intentional in the implementation phase of e-portfolios, because we don't want to stress our learners, as Kate has highlighted there. Secondly, one of the cutting theme is a reflection as a core practice. So we know that technology is only ever a vessel. We love technology. It's doing things and forcing us to do things as educators and as researchers, as reflective practitioners, as but without structured critical reflection, e-portfolios are just digital filing cabinets. And this book is trying to show you or showcase that e-portfolios are actually more than just that. As you go through each chapter, read each story, each context, and how e-portfolios are implemented, how e-portfolios are used, you'll see that reflection cut across all the 43 chapters. Thirdly, one of the most important thing is e-portfolio formation. Identity formation. And I think this is one of the things that Prof. Norm always talk about, which is important. And personally, I've experienced that when I was first introduced to e-portfolios during, I think, 2012, 2013, when I was doing an online course with the University of Maryland Global Campus at the time. And I could see that I was formulating an identity in the research space. And I was at a time an admin. I was doing an admin work, but that experience actually helped me realize, I think I'm an academic. I think I want to go into academia, And I started developing myself and doing MOOCs here and MOOC there. And I really believe it was part of experiencing the e-portfolio practice and being taught and learned through the e-portfolios. So identity formation, we see that e-portfolios consistently supported the development of professional identity. And this is also seen in some of the chapters in the book. So it's whether for pre-service teachers or for doctoral scholars. I mean, we've got a chapter on doctoral support there, or even career-ready graduates. We see that identity formation comes through as one of the themes in the book. Fourth, institutional commitment. Successful ePortfolios colleagues adoption is never accidental. It requires policy alignment and faculty buy-in and sustained support. And from personal experience, I think in my institution, one of the things that was lacking, Christine, I think we spoke about this in the podcast, was policy alignment and sustained support. We were using Mahara at the time, and because we were not, as Mahara updates, we were not updating. At one stage, we were far behind and we were receiving all these errors and whatnot. And then we felt as academics that Mahara was difficult to use. It was not user-friendly, or not realizing that, we are dealing with the issues that Mahara has already long time dealt with, and they moved on to other levels or other versions of Mahara. So institutional commitment to e-portfolios is very important. Fifth, and that again, you see that theme coming through in the books, in the chapters. So fifthly, authentic assessment, a shift from grades to holistic developmental evidence of growth. It's seen, colleagues are telling us in the book, or telling their stories in the book, how a portfolio practice support authentic assessment. And that is very important, especially now with all these technologies. Things are run through people, colleagues, academics or educators run through, grading and all that without looking at individual holistic development assessment of learners. And six, also we see that this is actually the most central theme to the book. It is linked to also the title of the book is digital resilience itself. And we have seen how e-portfolios not just document learning through disruption, but they have helped, authors, learners to build the capacity to thrive in that disruption. Those colleagues who or institutions who were using e-portfolios before the COVID-19 pandemic, like myself, when we were hit, we were already online. We were already, our students were already communicating with each other, with the educators, doing their things and sharing work and all that. So it wasn't a big thing for us to transition. So the crisis or the pandemic found us there, and that's what I like about portfolios. It has stood the test of time, if I may put it so. Prof, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. Thank you.
Okay.
So as also you've seen here, that we also look at the lessons now for the future from this book, what this book tells us about e-portfolios beyond the pandemic. Because as the title says, during and beyond the pandemic. So the book distills also six forward-learning, forward-looking lessons. And again, it might even be more, you know, but we looked at six that we felt were coming in strongly. The first one is, as Prof has said, I think it's in the third or fourth themes, it's designing with equity in mind. As you can see, we cannot assume infrastructure or connectivity or baseline digital literacy. We have to be able to design with equity in mind, especially as I would say in the global south, where where technology is still a bit of a problem for us. But I think it's important that when you design e-portfolios, you do so with all the technological considerations in place. And secondly, I think it's important that we learn that you need to embed the e-portfolio across the full program arc, not as an add-on, not as an add-on. So sometimes when we do that, when we just add in a portfolio in a program, that's what frustrates educators, that's what frustrates learners, because there's no thorough planning. Sometimes you find the e-portfolio is put there, but it's not even linked to, for example, to the program or the module learning outcomes. And so we would like to see us being more thoughtful when we embed e-portfolios into our teaching and learning. And third, we also believe that it is important, and we've learned from the book also that e-portfolios should center around reflection, not necessarily technology. The voyage matters more than the vessel. As I have said, that technologies come and go. I mean, I think perhaps all of you know the history and evolution of portfolios by now, and we have gone through waves and waves of technological changes, and the portfolio is still here because of its beautiful character that centers around reflection, which is very important, especially in teacher education. But anyway, and the most important thing about the portfolio is that you can teach any subject at any level, in any context. That's the beautiful thing about it. This book is it's evidence of that. I mean, you've got chapters from the west, the north, the east, and the south, completely different contexts. And all we are saying, these are the benefits of the portfolios. And fourth, I think what we are learning here is to harness AI ethically, and that we know that there is really a big potential here. But institutions must develop frameworks that protect students and also academic integrity. We have only one chapter. I always love, Christina asked us, what is each one of us, what was our favorite chapter in the book? And we say, no, 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 Christina, we don't have the favorite chapter. All the 43 chapters, all the 43 chapters are our favorite. But of course, there are certain chapters that speak about things that Mpo Entlewood was a little bit afraid to touch, was AI. And we have this one article, chapter in the book that speaks about AI and portfolios. I think it's in the last theme 7. So it's really important that we AI, again, like technology, AI is here. We are not shying away from it. But I know without any doubt, and I'm speaking for myself, that we can use AI freely and creatively in e-portfolios. And one chapter is calling us into exactly that. And fifth, we also believe that there is a lesson there to build enabling policy environments. As I've said, without the policy commitment from the institutions, really, with e-portfolios, adoption remains shallow and fragile and misunderstood both by the educators and by the learners. And last but not least, we also recognize e-portfolios as, of course, resilient tools. And the pandemic proved that these are not merely assessment tools. I always say e-portfolios are not just for assessing. It's the whole thing, it's the whole package, it's the journey, it's the whole identity formation, it's the whole culture sharing. I believe it's one of the culturally responsive and sensitive teaching tool, if I may. I hope I don't get in trouble for being
No,
so
no,
good.
no, no.
But truly, they are not just merely assessment instruments, but they are platforms for agency. We always talk about student agency. We talk about student self-directed learning. We talk about ownership of learning and all that. And portfolios have the ability, and research have proven it, to give our student the platform for that self-development, and also for adaptability. I mean, the pandemic have proved that throughout the years, we've seen how portfolios are adaptable to new technologies that are coming in, and also most importantly for lifelong learning and for professional development. So those are some of the lessons that we pick up from the book as we look forward. Thank you, Prof. We are almost at the end of our presentation. So one of the aspects of this book that I'm really proud of is its geographical scope. And, you know, so while the volume is truly international, with contributions from Canada, from the USA, Australia, lots in Australia and New Zealand. There's one chapter, I think, that has about 9, I think it is yours, Christina, chapter 3, that has got about 9 authors, you know, across New Zealand and Australia. And even in the UAE, I'm just a little bit sad that we don't have a contribution from Asia. But you know what? The center of gravity is firmly in the global south, which is beautiful because the global south has to, you know, our voices must, we need to share our stories so that you who are in the global north can see and come in and collaborate, just like what Prof. Norm and Poentle Modise are doing, you know, and share our stories, share the lessons, share the resources. And that's another thing about portfolios that which we shared with Christina in the podcast, is that e-portfolios is one of the practice that I have experienced, that there's a lot of the culture of sharing of rubrics, sharing of resources, sharing of whatever online, you know, and so it's beautiful. So we've got more than a dozen African institutions that are represented, including, of course, University of South Africa, VETS and whatnot, and all that. And institutions from Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Eswatini is the previously Swaziland. Some may still remember it as Swaziland, and others. And so this is not a book about Africa, you know, written from somewhere or elsewhere. It really is a book by African scholars, not just African scholars, of course, is an international resource, but I just want to highlight that a big chunk comes from South Africa, Africa, reflecting the African realities, but also contributing the African insights to the global conversation on e-portfolios. And that is something we really set out to achieve deliberately. Prof, if you can go to the next slide. Again, in the podcast, we were just being ourselves and talking. Prof. Nom keeps saying he talks too much. I talk too much too. That's why I let him to do the real stuff. You should listen to our conversation, guys. When I remember when one of the times when he was giving me training on Pressbook, sometimes the topic goes off a tangent. We are speaking about something else. He's asking me about my husband and my children. He's telling me about his family. And that's part of the story that I'll take with me, Prof. Norm. It's really something that I'll take with me. I've learned a lot from you. So one of the things that we reflect as we reflecting with Christina was that we really wanted a book that reflects the community of practice, that one could learn from one another, that we can adapt together and continue to evolve as we imagine the future of e-portfolios in the changing world. And I think each and every one of our 85 authors came through shining with exactly that. They shared their stories, they put their challenges, they put the solutions, and they put it packaged together. And I must also mention that we actually had about 80 plus submissions, but of course with the peer review and the quality assurance processes, we ended up only accepting 43 chapters. So you can imagine if it was from 80 plus submissions to 43 chapters. So it was really a big project. Prof, if we can go to the next slide. I think this is our last slide. So we just want to really leave you with an open invitation. The book is a living resource freely available for everyone in the world who wants to read it, teach with it, or build on it. So you can access it, of course, on Pressbooks, and we hope that you will use it. That in your classrooms, in your research, in your professional development, and that it can spark or it will spark new conversations and collaborations, just as it has done for us. And in the last slide there, Prof, Ria leboha. Ria leboha is thank you in Setswana. It's really been a pleasure and honor to share this work with you today. I believe and I hope and I trust that we have done justice to the chapters. And Prof. Norma and I are both available for question and ongoing conversations. You can reach out to us directly on our contact details are there on the screen. And we look forward to hearing your reflections, your questions, and the way in which these ideas resonate with your own practice and your context. With that, Christina, we love you so much and thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mfuente, and also Norm, for running us through that massive effort from so many people around the country, or not around the country even, around the world, in sharing their insights, sharing their knowledge, and also sharing their practices around portfolios, and for everybody to see the diversity of how portfolios are being used, so that everybody gets new ideas, what they might like to try out, what they might like to investigate, maybe also start a project with somebody, get in touch, expand their own network, and also realizing they are not alone at their institution. There's lots of people around the world that have a similar passion, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who heard how very passionate you are about your own portfolio work, about sharing all the work that everybody is doing. And so I definitely invite everybody to come along to some of the events. I did put some links into the chat where you can meet community members in the upcoming months for Flexible Learning Association of New Zealand and also ABLE. And now we have about 5 minutes for questions or comments. If anybody wanted to say anything, be they authors or have a burning questions from anybody in the audience. And while somebody might get their microphone ready, if you are running a portfolio event, please do feel free to put the link into the chat and share that so that we might be able to connect there as well.
I have a question, and thank you so much for this lovely presentation. I find myself to be here on a call with Dr. Lewis, and we're on the same campus in Northern California in the U.S. and small campus, but we make great waves with being founded in the process of reflection and presenting one signature work on a e-portfolio. I've been here for 20 years, and I feel like it's still this inching up of sustainable buy-in and all the things, and restrictive budgetary cuts and things like that. And sometimes I feel as though I cannot be creative enough. Like I'm never like enough. And then, okay, I'm only as smart as the folks in the space with me, the circles. And then I find each year there continues to be like this group of students who then show me just how digitally resilient they are, if that makes sense, where it's like, yeah, okay, there's hope. Like I'm not, okay, so we had this great work with community engagement, service learning, where there's a mix of different studies, and they're taking their experiences and reflecting on it and posting it here on this website. And then I had a few professors sharing it, and I felt like, okay, I can do this another year. So how do you find that inspiration to continue on in this creative field of reflective work?
M. Puente, do you want to start? But I definitely want to say something, but I'll let M.
Go
Puente
for
go
it.
because,
No, go for
okay,
it, Prof.
Christina, you hit the nail on the head. The only thing that keeps me going is the students. And I'm just trying to, Northern California, I'm in Canada, but I'm sure you've got quite a diverse student population. And it's really exciting for me because not only is our education program diverse, but our city's diverse. So our schools are diverse and everything like that. And that's what's been really exciting for me, Christina, is what sustained me is the students' work, is just how they're really discovering who they are. And it's really based on, their cultural, their religious identity. It's really interesting. And then how they're taking that out to practice. So, Christina, I'm kind of fortunate. And again, it just works this way. I'm not going to mention what tool we use, but we're fortunate. Our institution, the tool we use, the students get to keep that tool for life. So what happens with us, Christina, is I remember you, I think you may be like a 2 year, but we're a 4 year under degree program. So we got them for 4 years. You can really do a lot of mind shaping in 4 years. But then what happens for professional practice, in order for them to get their teaching license in our province or our state, they actually have to continue the portfolio process. It has to be a professional growth plan, which we call it a professional learning plan instead of an e-portfolio. So that's what keeps me excited because Christina, I'm teasing you, you look a lot younger. I can't believe you've been doing it for 20 years. You look like one of my students. Okay, I'm sucking up again. But Christina, what frustrates me is we're going through a bit of a shift. I've got a few years left under my belt, but a lot of my colleagues are retiring. And what's really frustrating for me is these new faculty members coming in who I figure they've got energy, they've got whatever. But when they look at this as this is just too much work. I've got my research or scholarship, I've got service. It's so much easier to do multiple choice. This whole assessment thing's overwhelming. And again, Christina, it's not perfect, and I'm going to use more students. But the thing I find is when they start doing their own portfolios, and I know this is happening at other institutions um, in the States and in Canada, is that people are using their portfolios as part of the tenure process to go through. But that's the two things I find, Christina, and I'll let M. Puentes chime in. It's the students, because every year I just go, oh man, it's like herding cats, my other faculty members, because we all have to be on the same page. I mean, we can diverse, but we all have different levels of passion for portfolios, but it's like you hit on, it's the reflective practice. And I'm just worried like you say, economic cutbacks, and I don't want to go on politically, but I don't know if you're at a state university, California, go Gavin. But other institutions that I'm working with in the States now, especially, I won't mention the word, but I will, Texas, man, oh man, the confinement that they have there is incredible. So over to you, M. Puente. Any other comments to get Christina back and motivated?
Yes, I think also to answer that question, how do you get, continue with all these challenges? Uh, in my institution, and I was sharing this with Christina the other day, we deal with large classrooms, e-classrooms. Our modules can have up to 25 to 30,000 students. And how do you teach with an e-portfolio in that? It's almost impossible. And Christina, you promised me that you'll collect scholars around the world to share ideas on how to do that. But personally, what gets me excited and continuing in spaces where the institution perhaps is not supportive, there's no proper policy commitment, and or even the infrastructure, considerations. I take my personal experience of the e-portfolios. I honestly enjoyed. I think I've seen a comment there by Irene Lube. Yes, I think Irene, we were in the UMEC together, you and I, or you were there before me. But it was such a beautiful experience for me to learn through e-portfolios, and because the e-portfolios for UMEC was well structured and well designed, I felt as an academic as an admin aspiring to become an academic, I was given a space to express myself as a learner. And I was also forced in a way to pause and reflect about my learning and reflect about the assessment feedback I was receiving, and to even given an opportunity to improve upon the work that has been marked and all that. And again, an opportunity to share this world with other colleagues from everywhere or anywhere in the world. I mean, we're put in groups, I remember, and for me, that experience was wow. And why would I not want my learners to have a wow experience? So I push and I push and I push, and I'm still pushing. I'm hoping one day one of the leaders or something will click, So I think the benefits of e-portfolios are worth pushing for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that endpoint and also Norm. Wanting to be a bit mindful about everybody's time and also seeing that it's almost tomorrow for endpoint midnight. I'd like to stop us here for the time being, because what we do want to see is have some more webinars over the course of the year on individual aspects of the book, so that also chapter authors can take to the stage and share their learning, share their experiences. And that is then also when we can pick up some of those themes and also some of the questions and comments that have come through. So right now, I'd like to invite you, if you haven't already taken down the links for the upcoming events, to check them out. See if you want to attend one or the other. They are in-person events, and then they are also online events. So we'd love to see you at all the events that we are organizing here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, from the Flexible Learning Association of New Zealand, and then for the events that are also organized by ABLE, the Association for Authentic, Experiential and Evidence-Based Learning, which is located in the States, but we are actually operating also internationally, and have been partnering with FLANS and also ePortfolios Australia before. So of course, it's all one big community. And now I would like to release you back into the rest of your day or evening, and would like to thank you so much for joining us today. And so we'll close with our karakia. Kia whakaara te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia turoki whakataha ai, kia turoki whakataha ai, homia huie tai kie. Kia ora.